Could Spider-Man be leaving the MCU after Spider-Man No Way Home? It's possible. What's up, you guys? My name is Alex Hampton. If this is your very first time ever watching any of my videos, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Then hit that bell right next to it. That way you get all the notifications of every time I'm releasing a video here on my YouTube channel. And if you want to support us in any other way as well, you can go to our Patreon page. We have 3 tiers on there. Support us on there. That gives us a lot of great support in creating this great content here on my YouTube channel. Be a part of Momentum Nation. Your support definitely helps us as we create more content. Now, with this news of the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer, it's created a lot of theories, a lot of really cool, crazy theories, and a lot of cool theories that make no sense at all, right? But, you know, a lot of things have been floating around, like, you know, with the addition of these different villains and potentially Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire coming to this film. Could Sony take the Spider-Man character, Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and put him in their own little Sony universe, interacting with Venom, Carnage, Kraven, and all these other different characters? Now, you know, once before, about a couple years ago, right around 2019, Sony and Marvel did at one point split. And, you know, Sony basically said that they're not renewing their deal. I think a month or so went by, and then they ultimately came up with a new deal with Spider-Man, bringing him back into the MCU. And a part of that deal was we're going to get one more film under the MCU, a full film of Spider-Man. Then we were going to get an appearance of Tom Holland's Spider-Man in a future team-up Marvel movie. Some say it's Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. I don't know if that's confirmed yet. And some say it could be the up-and-coming Avengers 5 movie that we could get in maybe 2023, 2024. Now, in my opinion, do I think it's a wise thing for Spider-Man to leave the MCU? I look at it 2 ways. So I want to preface what I'm about to say. Sony does not need Marvel. Marvel does not need Sony. Now, if you look at the Sam Raimi movies and the Andrew Garfield movies, those movies, regardless of how you feel about them, they all did well successfully in the box office without any ties to the MCU. If you look at the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie with Miles Morales, that animated movie not only did well in the box office, but it won an Oscar. Also, keep this in mind. The Venom movie, which I think is trash, right? That movie did well in the box office, and it did well enough to also warrant a sequel. Now, with that being said, all of those movies, I think that's 7 movies. Those movies have nothing to do with the MCU, right? Now, those movies all did well financially for Sony. Now, if they wanted to take the Tom Holland character Spider-Man and incorporated them into the Spider-Verse that they're building with their other ancillary characters, I'm sure it wouldn't be that big of a drop-off in terms of revenue. But at the same time, I do believe fans will respond to it differently. However, I still think Sony would be successful in taking that character out of the MCU. However, I do think it would be a dumb business move for them to do, because a lot of people got excited for Tom Holland to interact with the other Marvel characters and do the different types of adventures with those characters. I mean, Tom Holland's Spider-Man being in the MCU is a drastically different take than what we've gotten before from any other Spider-Man film. So to take him out of something that we're used to and to basically change it in a way where he is now on his own, it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense to me, in my opinion. I think you should keep a good thing while we got a good thing going. And, you know, whatever deal that they can make with Disney, make sure it's cohesive enough where both parties make money. Overall, this has to do with rights and licensing and all this other stuff. You know, no big studio wants to share a property with somebody. If they have the opportunity to own the property 100% outright, more than likely that will be their best bet. But Sony and Disney seem to have a very cordial relationship, at least in regards to this. So I would hope that they would continue their relationships together and keep Spider-Man over at the MCU. That's not to say I wouldn't mind to see him, fight off against the Tom Hardy Venom and maybe interact with Carnage and maybe interact with the new Craven and all the different things that they got going on, with their Sony Spider-Man verse. However, I like him at the MCU. And I just want to point out something as well. Granted, like I said, Sony doesn't need Marvel. Marvel doesn't need Sony. But keep this in mind. When you look at the Tom Holland trilogy of Spider-Man films, Spider-Man Homecoming, No Way Home, and then Far From Home, and then No Way Home in December, those films are drastically different from any other Spider-Man film that we have gotten. And a lot of that has to do with the fact because he was indoctrinated in the MCU. Now, that doesn't mean that those films were only good because they had MCU characters in them. That's not necessarily the case, but the story that they crafted with Tom Holland's Spider-Man in particular, along with him being in the MCU, just fits to the overall narrative of who Spider-Man is versus the movies that we got in the past. I think Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man was more of a classic take of the character, and then also if you look at Andrew Garfield's take, his was more of a modern take. Tom Holland's take is more of an ultimate take, because if you look at the Ultimate series, Spider-Man, him being so active with the Avengers, in the Ultimate series of the Marvel comic books, that's how he was. He was basically the little brother to every Avenger in the whole Avengers in New York. And also, it's kind of hard to have a whole bunch of superheroes who live in New York and you can't really acknowledge them. That's just kind of weird. Like when you look at the past movies, like the Avengers Tower, X-Men, and all these different characters live in New York City. Andrew Garfield Spider-Man couldn't acknowledge that. Neither could Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. And also, Spider-Man's parents worked for S.H.I.E.L.D. So that's a story that they could tackle on in the MCU if they choose to do that. So, there's so many things that they could do within the MCU. Also, I want to point out there's so many things they can do without the MCU. So I hope Spider-Man does not leave the MCU. I think it would be a tragic move on Sony's part. But what do you guys think? Do you think that Spider-Man will be leaving the MCU after Spider-Man No Way Home and also his future appearance in a team-up movie? Just jump into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel where you get all the updates of every time I'm releasing a video here on Momentum Media. Support us on Patreon. Got a lot of cool tiers on there. Working on some great things here at Momentum Media. We got some new merch, so check that out in the description below. And as always, you guys, you have a blessed day.